I have found out all of them are infested with errors. And today I'm going to walk you through as many of those corrected errors and give you today's correct date, which I think I mentioned here also in the red. If you make all the corrections, then today is October 25, 2021 AD, not 2014, because it's 7 years ahead, because 7 years is the difference between 292 years it takes to add a year and a quarter day. I mean, a day and a quarter day. And in 292 days, you end up adding a whole year. And therefore, in 2,000 years, you have added up 7 years. So that's how you know that you're on the right track. So what I want to do is give you a little bit of a background so you can put everything somewhat in a perspective. And I will try to make good use of the time also. And the background is, it goes something like this. Did it go? It did not move. See, it doesn't work. Which arrows is he talking about?
Well, just hit the space bar on your computer.
Here?
No, you can hit the space bar on your computer.
Space bar on the computer.
Humbly presents. Now hit it again. There you go.
Okay, this is the organization chart of my company. I know it's tongue-in-cheek. If you didn't notice it, it's all me at different ages. Because I'm either doing these things or have done them or I'm licensed to do them. So that's the reason for doing that. And this is the full topic if you really want to look at it. And I'll explain to you the basis of my premises of my presentation. There is but one reality. Unlike most people, I do not build a wall between sciences and scriptures. Yes. Oh, I have to go to the next slide. Okay. I don't know why it moved back. I had already advanced it once. Anyway, the whole concept behind one reality is that if you purge errors from every knowledge domain, and every knowledge domain has errors because humans are involved. And anything humans are involved, they're limited by their 5 senses. And as long as they're limited by their 5 senses, there will be, if nothing else, interpretational errors. So regardless of how accurate the experiment is, its interpretation will be different according to different people. And the same thing applies to the scriptures. People who read Bible, they make the same mistake. They say, well, Bible is, God's word. It cannot have any errors. God created everything in 6 days, and so they don't look beyond that. And that's not a good way to do science or scriptures or spirituality. So here we have, I'm trying to shooting with one reality towards a symphony of sciences and spirituality. Or you can look at it, stars and scriptures singing in unison. Or you can look at it as three-dimensional, universal dance of and around very centers. And everything which appears elliptical is really not elliptical, it's perfectly circular. But because it is orbiting the very center of the 2 and more bodies, it appears something other than circular. And same thing with for our own sun and earth. For example, our earth completes the full orbit of the sun, actually the very center of the earth and sun, in 364 days. So the year has only 364 days, not 365, not 360. And this, in the period, same sun is also orbiting the same very center, but it takes 13 years, which means 13 times 364, that many days. But, I want to keep going because, anyway, here's a little bit more of my background. I have a vocation, which is creation, protection, and caching of intellectual property. I also have an avocation, which is one reality research, and that's what today's presentation will be all about. And between my vocation and avocation, I have no time for vacation. And the money I make from my vocation goes into my avocation. So consequently, I'm broke just the same all the time. And I have invested more in my avocation than in my vocation. In my avocation, I'm in my vocation, I've been only 40 plus years, 42 years or so. Whereas in my avocation, it has been full 52 years now. This is the 52nd year. So this is what I mean by, and the tragedy of it all is this, that even after 50 years of research, I'm still the only one doing this research in the whole world. Why? How I found out? Because one day IRS kind of complained and they said, no, you have to get a separate phone line. You can't mix it with your business. So I got a separate phone line for my avocation. And then the Jello company or the phone company called me to say, how do you want it listed? I said, I want it listed under One Reality Research. They said, there's no such category. I says, well, why don't you list me under something like a think tank? Because you got to have think tanks, Vattel Memorial, others, and others, so many think tanks in this country. You got to have a category for that. They say, no, there's no such category for think tanks either. So you have to pick something else. So finally, I said, okay, give me something like research education or educational research or something like that. You know, and then they did. They could combine two of them and call it that. So that's what I finally ended up, One Reality Research, under the category of education research, something like that. Anyways, so let's keep going. I want to, again, the universe is very, complex. In size, huge complexity, also in miniatureness, equally small. In other words, if the edge of the universe is, say, 10 to the power 40 meters radius, then the smallest particle, probably much, much smaller than some of the quarks, go as small as 10 to the power minus 40 meters. And everything is a mirror image, it matches and everything. But that's not today's presentation, because I want to stick to today's presentation. So there I said, again, people ask me, what makes you think that you can do this when everybody else in the world doesn't think that it can be done? Otherwise, you would have been able to convince somebody to join you in this research. And the fact that you have failed to do it is a proof positive that it is not doable. And everybody believes it's not doable. So give it up. But I have never given up. And because of the progress that I'm making, I'm getting more enthused and more energetic in pursuing this research than even if I had 100 people working with me. So that's why I showed you the organization chart. This is what, for example, is a little cartoon. I try to mix a little humor with the work I do. There are 7 billion people on Earth. That means there are 7 billion perceptions of one reality. So one day my doc comes and asks me, who doc? And then there is some expletive in there with a computer code in it for those who are computer savvy can figure it out easier than others. Do you think you are that your perception of one reality is better than mine? Now, this is dog. Human beings are far more intelligent than dogs. So he says, and I replied to my dog, he says, listen, my pal, because I am nobody. It's just for your consideration. Another perception for your consideration. Don't be offended if it doesn't agree with your perception or somebody else's perception. Or even and certainly it cannot agree with God's perception, because God's perception and God's reality are synonyms. You can call it nature, you can call it something else. It doesn't matter. But I prefer to use the name God himself, because, even though it's such a sacred name that people say you shouldn't use it. So even though I've been working on it for 50 years, we started a formal One Reality Research Academy only about 14 years ago. And that's when we started doing monthly meetings. And it wasn't always called One Reality Research Academy. In retrospect, I am now discovering what I did, when, and how the connecting those dots shows me, oh, that's why I went to England. That's why I had that experience. That's why I took so-and-so tour of their particle accelerator. That's why so-and-so. And everything that I did in my life over the past 50 years was geared towards presentation like this, about one reality. And this is just a very small part of it. Today I'm only talking about these four things: calendar, clock, compass, and GPS. But I have similar corrections to every field and almost every knowledge domain, whether it is sciences or scriptures or whatever. So in about 2001, under the rubric of futurists and inventors, because that was what I was familiar with as by way of my vocation. So vocationally, I latched onto that and started there under futurists and inventors, which also helped my vocation a little bit. But later on, formally, I said, no, we need a separate phone line, as IRS wanted me to, and this is what happened. And then the mission is to harmonize all knowledge domains. Since all knowledge domains are infested with errors, they cannot be harmonized by removing errors in one knowledge domain. We have to almost concurrently remove infestation of errors in almost all knowledge domains, or at least as many as you can handle and are able to encompass and harmonize. Maybe you have to harmonize 2 before you can harmonize 3, before you can harmonize 5, before you can harmonize 53, before going to all knowledge domains. But nonetheless, they all have to be done in order to come under the umbrella of one reality and one reality harmonization. Background, I gave you. Activities, one reality research by purging errors. Monthly seminars, which we did for 10 years. We're not doing them anymore, and Dr. Tom Ballone was a speaker on one of our presentations, on our programs. See? And I have gone to his conferences too, and I even related to him because a couple of months after he came to speak to us, and I went to the Kofi conference, and I related to him that somebody in the audience came to me and asked me, he says, I didn't know you knew somebody as famous as Dr. Ballone. He was impressed by me just because I had him as my guest. And then I've had some other guests too, which were somewhat not a match for Dr. Ballone, but nonetheless credible in their own right. So let's keep going because I want to get to the topic sooner or later. Today's date. Now, like I say, I don't draw a distinction between scriptures and sciences. Noah, I'm talking about the Noah of the Noah's flood. Noah and I have one thing in common. We were both born on a Tuesday. I know my date of birth and I can convert it to today's calendar. And I have figured out Noah's date of birth and his age today. His date of birth is February 17, 10:55 a.m. or February 17, 2945 BC. Now it all came from Genesis 6, 7, and 8. Primarily 7 and 8. But it doesn't come easy. You have to play Agatha Christie, detective, clues, circumstantial evidence, my legal training. I had to spend so much time just to get the date of birth of Noah from the Genesis. Again, that's not the only way. I try to harmonize things from more than one way because that's what gives me the confidence that regardless of what everybody else says, I can be confident that I am on the right track. But I shouldn't shout because that distracts me. Anyway, so you know the Noah's age. So today, if he were alive, he would be 4,966 years, 33 weeks, and 1 day. And I have a similar slide for the NPA presentation day after tomorrow. And the only thing that changes there is 1 day to 3 days. And that's what the day, his age would be on that day. So, again, my date of birth is, according to the new calendar, of 364 days, 13 months, 28 days every month, is remember 10, 1948. You say, what is remember? Well, you have months, January through December. And September, October, November, December, remember, rhymes with it. So I named the 13th month as remember. Don't forget to remember, you'll forget the 13th month. So I happen to be born in that 13th month, even though I was born in April. Does that mean I was born in winter instead of in spring? No. The day is the day it was. We're only changing the name because of the leap year infestation. Once we remove the bug of the infestation of the leaf, it disappears. And to do that, I have 2 or 3 or 4 step process, which is not that hard to complex, and that's what we will get into before we getting into our compass and GPS and other stuff. So here, I go to LIC, black ink, I generally use to denote leaf-infested calendar. And then LLC, I use it in red ink for leaf-less calendar. But you can't get from leaf-infested to leaf-less without going through a couple of intermediate steps. One is what I call leaf-corrected calendar. Now, leaf-corrected calendar can come in 2 varieties. You can have a leaf-corrected calendar on the basis of 12 months, or you can have a leaf-corrected calendar on basis of 13 months. And to compare the LCC with LIC, we use 12 months. To compare the same LCC with LLC, we use the 13 month. And that's how you know the difference in when does how far apart we are from the new year, because the new year starts at different times, you know. For example, January 2015 will not coincide with January 2022. They are probably 7, 8 months apart, or how many months, I don't know. But because it's all based upon 292 years for 1 year difference. So let's go to next slide. I don't know if there is anything, but the idea here is to show you that there is a mechanism, there is a way of comparing them, there is a way of ensuring them that they're correct, there is a way of harmonizing them with the scriptures, even if you don't believe, I mean, even if you, regardless of what you believe in, our beliefs are, and our interpretations are very faulty. So we have to be willing to change our position. And like the scripture, Matthew 7:5 says, you know, remove the beam from your eyes before you remove the speck from your neighbor's. And you'll be able to see that better after you remove the beam. So scientists absolutely don't see anything wrong with them, but they can happily criticize. People like Richard Dawkins can easily criticize, oh, everything evil in this universe is because of religion. And that's one of his statements, you know. And again, Pope is probably the same way. He probably says, hey, we are the Vatican. You understand that? We are the Vatican. And therefore, errors are not in Vatican because God is head of it, not the Pope. But there are errors in sciences all around. So neither the Vatican will correct and acknowledge and recognize its errors, nor the sciences. And I will pretty soon show you about the errors that NASA made and how we got the leaf-infested calendar and how we are still persistent with it, thinking that, oh, we can't change it. I mean, it was a hassle for some people to change from the currency that they were using then to decimal currency, or foot-pound system to metric system. And yet, it made life easier for the people who changed. But this change from leaf-infested calendar to leaf-less calendar, it is not a minor thing. Its impact is so huge that you will say, well, how on earth did we manage without it for so long?
So all of us are 6 years younger actually than we're actual age now.
No, you are actually 6 years older.
I mean
7
older.
years.
That's bad.
Yeah, bad. Bad. But I mean, I'm just being honest with you. Okay, now here is the comparison between 12-month and LIC to 13-month LLC. And again, I make tables. I do it for my own satisfaction that I'm on the right track. So here they are. I draw the difference difference month by month, how many days different, and then cumulative difference by just adding the column from the previous total, and then the same thing with the 13-month LLC calendar. So, and all of those things, the 46-day difference, the 292 years, 1.25 day difference, and NASA's numbers and everything, they all mesh in and agree harmoniously with everything. But this is just to show you that I look at these things. With your date, this is how it is calculated. There's a real algorithm to calculate it. And I show you this particular date, today's date, November 19 is October 25, 2021 AD, and this is how I arrive it. And you can apply this to any day. And I will show you some important dates in our calendar that I have converted by applying the same algorithm to every time. And here, for example, is, first of all, you say how many years have we completed today on November 19, 2014. If you look at it, it's 213 years completed, plus 323 days, which is the Julian days from January 1, and you divide that by 365.2424, and I will tell you later on how I got that number, because that number does not appear anywhere. And even I struggled with it before I came to that correct number. Because even if you're slightly off with this, it accumulates so much error in 2 or 4 or 6,000 years, let alone 13.7 billion years or 150.8 billion years, which are also very important dates, by the way, in creation of our universe. So anyway, again, the idea here is now I'm connecting it also to corrections to clock. So because right after clock, there's correction to the clock. And clock we are using for some reason 24 hours in a day. No, the nature, the orbits of the sun and the earth are telling us no, it is not 24 hours. It is 26 hours. And the minutes and seconds are different too. There are 26 hours, 56 minutes in each hour, and 56 seconds in each minute, compared to our 24 hours, 60 minutes in each hour, and 60 seconds in each minute. Again, the difference may not be huge, but if you, it still will harmonize if you, for example, want to say, how long does the sunrise take? I think the questions will leave to the end because it's too much material to cover right now. Okay? If we break it up, then you won't even get the forest, let alone tree, Unless you are trying to correct me or whatever.
No, I'm just saying that in physics, time is translation invariant. It doesn't matter what the label you put to it, it's translation invariant. Time is.
Yeah, so what?
Well, any label is okay.
No, it's not a question of maintaining. It's a question of making life simpler for our grandchildren. We struggled through it. And we're still not humble enough to recognize that we are so egotistic that we don't recognize our own mistakes. And we want our children and grandchildren to suffer even more than we did. And that's what I'm going to show you in a few slides. That's why I don't like these interruptions, because it just slows me down. And now that slide will be 30 seconds later than it would have been if we had not interrupted. Okay? I'm sorry if I'm being mean. So with your date derivation, I think I almost went through that. And again, you can calculate at what hour was Jesus born, and what hour was George Washington born. And, yeah, anyway, I'm not going to... Okay, now this is what I was talking about, the benefits. The title, as you can say, is Cosmos Ipsa Loquitur, which translated means the universe speaks for itself. In other words, it doesn't matter how we interpret it. The universe is doing what it is doing. If the universe is doing 364-day year, nobody, no power, nothing on earth can change that to 360 days, to 365 days, or any other number. And many, many, many numbers have been tried. I will show you in a later slide. This is one benefit. Solar and lunar calendars will be synchronized. Each will be 13 months, each will be 28 days. And just, I can't spend too much time. There will be harmony with clock, compass, and GPS. And when I say GPS, I mean latitude and longitude on Earth. Because GPS also depends upon how we divide the Earth, latitude and longitude. Currently, we are using 360 degrees, just as we were using 360 days in a year. Then the menstrual period of ladies will become far more reliable and predictable. And because of the biological clock will become far more reliable. Right now, the biological clock is confused because 26 hours is the real day. We call it 24 hours, and the biological clock turns out to be around 25 because it's the average and the best the nature can do to compromise between reality and our forced reality or our forced perception. But if you were to change it to 26, you will find out that the biological clock is also 26 hours, not an average of 24 plus 26 divided by 2. Okay? Then the life will be much simpler. It will be simplified life, simplified farmer's almanac, and simplified education. Even kids wouldn't have to use their knuckles or nursery rhymes to find out, hey, this month of September, how many days does it have? They do it on their knuckles. They have one nursery rhyme for that. None of that will be necessary. And you won't have to be shifting days. Oh, well, a lot of our employees like Monday off instead of actual birthday of George Washington off. So they shifted. That shifting will not be necessary. Okay? And you will know 100 years from now, 1,000 years ago, 100,000 years from now, it will be the same day of the week. More benefits. The adjustments to seasons, solstices, and equinoxes will not be necessary because they will be all in sync, and right now they keep shifting, and that's why a lot of people have to depend upon farmers' almanac to find out, oh, what time, when is the moon rise, when is the full moon, and so on. All that will be eliminated because moonrise will always fall on the same day of the month. Full moon, same day of the month. Nothing will change. Day of the week won't change. Nothing will change. And it will be life much, much, much simplified. And it will eliminate, probably one of the biggest and pleasing one to NASA, that it will eliminate the oscillations in the precession of the Earth. Now, it won't remove the precession of the Earth. There's nothing in it. I or anyone can do the precession. But the oscillations, there's a small oscillation in the precession of the Earth, which you can sometimes see by spinning a tabletop toy on the table, or gyroscope also. If you let a gyroscope run, it will start not only gyrating, but also precessing. Anyways, so let's keep going. But these are just some of the benefits. I just don't want to spend too much time on just explaining the benefits. Now, critical ratios and numbers. First of all, the most popular day was 360 days per year. 364 days is what I think nature created. The race of is declaring. 365.25 is another number, probably the first approximation to leap year. Then 65.256363, then 365.243636, and there was another one in between where they instead of adding 5.25 to 360, they subtracted 5.25 from 360, and they used that calendar for a while. But eventually, Julian, around 36, 80, 34, 80, 46, yeah. And he settled on the Julian. Thank you very much. It was close to the turn of the, millennium. But anyways, so there's a lot more to it. I mean, you probably have heard of it. It's a rule used by many in banks, and for approximation, they call it the rule of 72. But actually, why go for an approximation of 72 when the exact number, the exact rule is 72.8? It's not 72.8 followed by trillion zeros and then 1. No, it's forever zeros. That's the difference between your 72.8 and God's 72.8. Because our 72.8 after 100 decimal places, we don't care. We see 100 zeros after 72.8. That's good enough. We're going to stop. But God doesn't stop. But he stops. He understands that he gave us a limited brain, so he doesn't hold it against us that we stop after 10 decimal places or 100 significant places. And again, all these ratios are derived, and that's how I discovered that the rule of 72 is actually rule of 72.8. And it is one of the ratios of the nature. And when it came so close to 72, it made me think. I said, well, it's so close, but the ratio is 72.8. So I started applying it to, 24 years, 3% interest per year. How much would it even do? 24 times 3 is 72. So it worked out. But that's still an approximation. If you did it with 72.8, it won't be an approximation. It will be the exact interest rate, exact number of years or periods, and so on. So let's keep going. Now these are the Julian dates, and basically what it is a comparison of 12 months and 13 months with the Julian dates. And basically, I just started with the times 28 multiplication table. I said 28 times 1 is 28, 20 times 2 is 56, 20 times 13 is 224, and so on. And I keep going, 28, and all that. And I give you all the dates, and the weeks, and the dates for each of them. All of them, and of course for leap year, it gets adjusted by one more day. Not the LLC, nor the LIC, the leap infested one, but the LCC, because that's the one where it is a bridge between LIC and LLC. LIC being leap infested calendar, LCC being leap corrected calendar, which has two modes of operation, 12-month and 13-month, and then 13-month can only be used to compare with LLC, 12-month can only be used to compare with LIC, and that's why the differences between those two, if you want to compare, if you were to subtract the days, number of days difference between LLC and LIC, it wouldn't make much sense. But going through the intermediate step, you can add then those two differences, and that will make much more sense.
Julius Caesar added July. His adopted son added August. I recommend we make remember Pauli. P-A-L-Y.
Well, I don't know.
No? Oh.
Thank you for your thought.
10 minutes, Bill.
10 minutes, so I'll have to hurry up, but I want to warn you that I will have to stop before completing it, because there's too much to say. The reason I started with this is because I think this is relatively easier for intelligent people like us to verify on our own. And I will show you how I verify everything. I verify everything. For example, and again, I'm not limited to sciences. For example, I measured this sun, and I made this the orbit of the sun, and the very center of the sun and the earth is somewhere very, very close to this center of gravity of the sun. So when the earth goes around the very center, we can't tell the difference whether it's going around the very center or the center of gravity of the earth, because center of gravity of the earth is so close to the very center of the two, because sun is so much bigger and massive than the earth. So I did that, and it turns out that by turning 28 degrees every year in 13 years, it is the same one orbit as the earth does in a single year, or 364 times 13 days for the sun. And that's not a hard experiment to do. I do simple things like this, you know what I mean? But it gives me confidence of what I'm doing. Now, in case you think I only do these experiments for science, no, I do similar experiments for other things. For example, there's a big controversy in different religions about Trinity. For example, Sir Isaac Newton, he said, I don't believe in Trinity. Trinity is a wrong concept. Trinity is not mentioned in the scriptures. And yet, he got a job, professor, in a Trinity College in London.
Cambridge.
Huh?
Cambridge.
Cambridge, yeah. Which is, I'm sorry. See, this is good to have people like him. But yeah, but he's right. So then I thought, okay, well, this trifold, whatever they call it, I think it's called a trifold something. It's actually single loop, but it's also three loops, 3 in 1, and that's the, some way of understanding how something can be 3 and 1 at the same time. Like this one is 3 circles as well as 1 circle, both at the same time, until you tear it apart and make it a single strip, which of course we can do. This is another one, triangle. Not triangle, this is actually a tetrahedron. In this, I made this tetrahedron to satisfy myself the relationship of Trinity to science or whatever you want to call it. And I found out that even though by we I mean mostly Roman Catholics, who say, who conduct ordinances in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. And it is the most popular Trinity in use today. But that was neither the first nor the last. I identified 12 Trinities on this tetrahedron. Each corner has 3, and there are 4 corners, 3 corners, and then you add them up, they end up to be, and there's some common between them. Otherwise you'll end up with more than 12. You'll end up with 27 or 36, you know what I mean? But I think there's only 12 unique Trinities, and the very first Trinity has nothing to do with the Trinity we use today. And I think people are right when they say the word Trinity is not mentioned in the Bible. So
It's mentioned in the Quran.
it's mentioned in the Quran.
Yeah.
Oh, good. See?
Negatively.
Huh?
Negatively in the Quran.
Oh, good. Well,
But in the Quran it says don't say Trinity. It says one.
yeah.
It says don't.
So they deny it and they mention
the
it.
command by Almighty God is don't say Trinity, say one.
So they're just the reverse of Christians.
But there's no.
Christians, say there is no Trinity mentioned in the scriptures, but they accepted Trinity. They live it Trinity. They build,
Yes, no. That's,
but Quran is just the
My
opposite.
wife believes
It's
that,
mentioned,
it's
but they don't
okay.
live it.
I mean-
They don't, Anyway, let's keep going. What do I say? This is, again, a little intellectual question about leap years. We say, well, it's a leap year, but if it's a century, it's not a leap year. But if it is a century, it's a leap year if it's divisible by 400, and so on. And I generalized it into a single phrase answer. You have to look at only the first 2 digits of the year. If that's divisible by 4, it's a leap year, otherwise it's not. For example, say the year 17,000, which is far away from us. You have to wait for it, 15,000. I'm just jumping ahead to explain to you the principle. 17,000 is not a leap year because it's the first 2 digits, 17, are not divisible by 4. But 16,000 was, 20,000 was. And same thing we experienced in 2000, 20 and 19. 1900 was not a leap year, but 2000 was a leap year. Again, only because 19 is not divisible by 4, 20 is. And you can apply this to billions and billions of years only by looking at the first 2 digits, which are the most significant, the highest in the age of that calendar.
Only for zeros
Huh?
Only for zeros after the first 2.
Only for what?
Zeros
Only
after the
zeros
first
after
2
the
digits.
first 2.
No, zeros have nothing to do with it.
Every year.
I'm saying the first 2 digits of the year.
Then every year,
Yeah,
20,000
say, start with year 1.
Then there's 100.
There was year 1, year
Centenary
2,
years.
year 3, year
It
4.
means centenary years.
Yeah, then we can talk about it later,
Yeah, it
but it's
doesn't
more.
mean ordinary years, centenary years.
Well, no, I'm saying it also applied, even though nobody applied leap year then. For example, 10 AD was not a leap year because it's not the first two digits are not divisible by 4. Nothing to do with the zeros that come after it, or any digits
But
that come.
1281 was not a leap year, even though the first two digits divisible by 4.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Yes, it's got to be, yeah.
I'm talking about one. See, yeah, that's right. Maybe there's a slightly better way to phrase what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that what you have considered before leap year, you can't override this by ignoring the zeros and looking at the first two digits. But you can ignore the zeros if you remember that, hey, you already said 2000 is not a leap year. So the fact of 20,000, you shouldn't have to think about it. Now you have to wait till 19,000 or 21,000 to know whether or not it's a leap year.
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. So let me see what I can do. I don't have a conclusion slide, which many people do. Otherwise, I would jump to that. But let me see if in 1 minute if I can do a couple more slides. Okay. LIC and LLC time differential. Now again, these are the two extremes, and this is how these numbers work out, and what the metrics are. First of all, months per year. In LIC is 12, LLC is 13. And you keep going, and I have, in my hand someplace a laser pointer, but I don't know what I did. Oh, here it is. See now, just when it is 1 minute margin, I can say, use it. So months per year, LIC, LLC. Weeks per year, 52, which happens to be the same. Days per year, 365.24. And LLC is 364. Hours per day, 24, 26. Hours per year, so on. And months per year, so on. Seconds per year, so on. Hours per week, so on. Seconds per hour, so on. You can complete all the way and compare them. And everything harmonizes at that level. Is my minute up for you? Yes. I thank you for your attention. Sorry for not taking any time.
Any questions for our pal?
Well, I'm confused. Your actual birth year is 1942, but according to your LLC, it's 1948.
Yes.
So you're 6 years younger, not older.
No. Okay, maybe you are. But
Yes,
I'm talking about...
no, this is better. We're 6 years younger. I was worried.
No, but...
We're younger, by 6
Yeah,
years.
but look at me. You're not younger or older because you are the age what you are. Because the 6-year increase only comes because we have shortened the year from 365 to 364.
Right,
But the
right,
number of days of you from birth till today is still the same.
Yeah, but counting years.
Yeah, the years is ahead. I'm saying you are older. I mean, not just, otherwise if the difference between your birth and today is the same number of days, regardless of the system. But when you were born, the difference was like 6 years and 5 months. Today, the difference may be 6 years and 11 months.